I think the microphone's switched off. That might help. Now can you hear me?
No. Yeah. Oh, you're delayed.
Yeah, there's quite a delay. It's like a 4-second delay, I think. Yeah.
Blow your nose or something.
Oh, it's bad, man. It's this hay fever. It's got you messed up. One minute my nose won't stop running. The next minute I'm blocked up. It's no fun. I am early, but
What is itchy ass? I'll leave you here.
huh?
I'll go downstairs.
Okay. So cheap.
Let you do your thing. I need to go and get my water there.
Okay. Yeah. So we are live. We have one concurrent viewer, which I think is memory. That's fine. We'll see if anyone turns up. Oop. Yeah, I can put stuff in the chat as well. I think I can. I can start a Q&A. You can start a poll. We'll give it a bit of time, see if anyone comes. Let's see. Did someone put a little heart in? I don't get to see who that was. I can only assume that was memory. I saw it pop up. Oh god, here we go. So I did display capture. So if I do that, you should see my school. You can see my school. Awesome. Okay. So that will mean that we can actually dive into what score looks like. And we can have a look at the PDF that was in here as well. This is something we did earlier because someone asked for it about what does financial freedom look like, which is a really difficult question to answer, really, because financial freedom is different for different people. And that kind of comes down to what sort of lifestyle do you want? So I had this idea a few years back where if I look at it today and I say what my I guess what my ideal life would look like, or like a good life, and then like a perfect life. Then, oh, let me do this actually. So I should be able to put me down in the corner, I think. Nope. Maybe. It's all gone wrong, I think. Well, at least there's no one here. There we go. Now I can get that looking better. We're learning on the job. Now you can see me and you can see the PDF, unless you're on mobile, in which case you can't. You can just see a little bit of the PDF. But that's fine, because there's still no one here. So, have I put myself as watching? No, I have not put myself as watching. So yeah, a few years back, I thought there might come a time in the future where I wanted to take a job or move career, maybe take on more hours or, a more stressful but higher paying position when I don't need the money. That was my thinking. That might be, something that happens in the future. And to avoid or to make that decision easier about do I take the job or do I have the easier life but less money? I wrote out a list of things, sort of criteria, sort of buckets, if you will. What does the house look like? What does our cars look like? What does it look like for holidays and travel? And you can see the ones I've got on here. What does fun look like? And in terms of fun, I'm talking about, can I do anything like go on courses? Can the kids go to classes? Can I have Spotify? Can I have Crunchyroll? Can I have all the subscriptions that I want? Can I buy a new book when I want to buy a new book? Those are all the things that I looked at. And then I sort of wrote out what I thought what these different lifestyles would look like for each of those categories. So in here we have the floor, as in if all you could, what is the bare minimum that you would accept? And then there's enough, you're living pretty well, you're comfortable, you'd be happy. That's kind of where we're the main one we look at. And then there's the fantasy. This is the fantasy is, if everything was going right, what would you want? What would be the dream? And that might be something to aim for. You might not get it, right? And that's the honest truth. But the reason you might not get it is because you choose not to take that next job that pays you, twice as much, but is going to cause you a whole bunch more stress. And that's why the bottom two boxes here talk about your freedom and your security. So the freedom piece is, let's say you could have everything in this enough pile and you could work, 25 hours a week. Or you could work 100 hours a week and have everything in your fantasy pile. And you might go, do you know what? It's not worth it. So that's why we go through this. And kind of write out what does it look like. So for me, for instance, in home, in the enough, that would be a home that has a bedroom for each of my kids. It would be somewhere that has like an office space for me and like a small garage or a big shed or something that I can tinker in. The garden's big enough for the kids to run around in. There's like a playroom area. It's nothing super fancy, but it gives us all the space that we would want. That is what I would have in my home. Whereas the fantasy would be like a small farm, probably, right? With a really cute farmhouse cottage type feel and a £20,000 Aga, and it would have uh like a barn that was big enough to have uh all the DIY stuff that I wanted, space to have like my mates bring cars around and work on them. That's what the fantasy might look like, right? That would be the perfect. And the same goes for the cars and the transport. Cars for me in the enough is probably, 2 cars if we need 2 cars, less than 10 years old. In the food and every day, I'm not worrying about the food shop. We can buy decent quality ingredients. But in the fantasy, I'm probably thinking that everything is organic or locally sourced. We can get takeaways or eat out when we want to. Whereas in enough, it might be a couple of times a month. Holiday and travel, again, enough for me, a nice happy life would be being able to go on holiday once a year and abroad, and then maybe a couple of long weekends or something. Whereas the fantasy would definitely be snowboarding every year, and another trip abroad, and then as many sort of days out and everything else as we want to. I don't know if anyone's listening who also loves snowboarding, but I haven't been for a few years, and I would love to go every single year, but obviously it's quite expensive. I'm definitely waiting for the kids to be old enough, and then I'll get them into snowboarding. So we've got another few years probably before that. And then I kind of talked about the fun and lifestyle already. Again, this is enough is, you're comfortable. So the kids can go to a couple of, sports teams or clubs or something like that each. And it's not a stress. Maybe my wife and I, we can each have a hobby that we want to pursue, and it's got a little bit of spending money to go towards that hobby. But in the fantasy, it's like I've got this whole barn and I've got all the materials and everything else. If I want to tinker on something, I tinker on it. The kids can go to as many classes and stuff as they want. They can try everything and see what they want to enjoy, or see what they enjoy, sorry. And once we've been through this, you can then start to add some costs against it, right? So if let's look at holidays, for example, right? If in my fantasy I want to go snowboarding every year, well, a snowboarding trip for the family is going to be, I don't know, let's say it's $6,000. And I want to go on another holiday each year. Let's say that's another 5, plus days out at £500 a month, let's say. So what we're going to do then is we're going to look at what that would be monthly. So we're going to say £500 a month for the days out, 5,000 divided by 12, which is whatever it is. I don't do maths on camera. And then £6,000 divided by 12 as well, which I probably can do, is £500. So that's whatever that is, nearly £1,500. That's what I'd put in there as the monthly figure. And I do the same for everything else. And then that brings you a monthly figure of what you need for that lifestyle. And the next bit is, great, I've got this number. What am I going to do about it? So we're going to take your pay. This is going to be your annual pay after tax. So look at your sort of take-home pay each month and times it by 12. And take your number that you just worked out and see which is bigger, right? If you earn more than, or if you're bringing in more than your lifestyle, then maybe actually you're doing okay. And you can think then about, do you need to bring in more money? Or actually, I'd not looked at it before, and now looking at it, my life's pretty good. If you're on the other side of it, where you need an extra £500 a month, £1,000 a month, whatever it might be, now you know what your target is. Now you can look at going, okay, how do I bring the extra money in? Or where can I cut back on things that aren't important to me so that I can start building up that extra money to put towards the things that are important? Because there's a guy, and I can't remember his name, and I think the book is called Rich Life. And he kind of talks about there's things that are going to be important to you and there's things that aren't important to you. So for him, I think he said like he likes to fly like first class and stuff when he travels. But he doesn't care about his car. As long as his car works, he doesn't care. So he drives an old car and, keeps it maintained, but he's not going out and buying a new £80,000 car. But he will spend his money on flying first class because that's important to him. So you can also use this as a way to have a look at what's important to you, because you might go through here and go, actually, in my ideal life, I said that, I didn't say that any of my streaming services were important to me. But going on holiday every year was. So I'm going to cut back all my streaming services and save whatever that might be. Let's say it's £75 a month. Maybe you've got them all, right? And I'm going to put that towards a holiday. Something to consider. And when you're trying to work out how you get there, I like to use the 70-10-10-10 rule. And this is a good starting place. This doesn't have to be the finishing line. This doesn't have to be absolutely set in stone. But the idea is that you look at your take-home pay, and at least, no more than 70% should be going towards your essential expenses. These are, when I talk about your essential expenses, we're talking about your rent or your mortgage, car payments, insurance payments. We're talking about your food, your gas, electric, the things that you need to live. If that's over 70%, you want to be getting it down to under 70%, because that leaves you room for savings, investments, and for fun. And if you're under 70%, then it's a little bit up to you. The rule as it stands is pretty simple and kind of falls down at this point. So let's say that your essential expenses are at let's go at 60%. So you've got 10%, and you can kind of choose what you do with that then. Do you put it all into savings because you're saving to buy a house? Do you put it all into investments maybe because you're a little bit older in life and you feel like you've not got enough saved for retirement, so you might want to put more into investments? Or, you're pretty happy with your savings, you're pretty happy with the money you're putting towards investments, so rather than 10% of your take-home pay going towards fun, you're going to put 20% towards fun. Obviously, the other option is you split it evenly across the three. I'm not going to tell you what to do with that. I think that's very much up to you. But as a minimum, I think you want to be aiming for the 70-10-10-10. So no more than 70 on your essential expenses, and no less than 10% on savings, investments, and fun. The only time I'd say otherwise to that is if your savings have already built up to a point where you don't need to save more and you just want to be investing. There's a certain point where you just don't need more in savings. Not sure if anyone's here at the moment and if they want to put questions in the chat, but they can do. So if you have any questions for them in the chat, there's also a question for you guys in there to say, what is your biggest financial struggle right now? So what is it that you are worried about? What what's keeping you up at night? Is anything keeping you up at night? Maybe your finances are in a good place and there's something else that you're struggling with. Finances aren't the only thing we cover here. The last piece on here really is just kind of holding up that mirror to yourself. So, if your gap between what you're bringing in now and your ideal life is very small, or actually you're past it, then maybe have a look at what the problem might be. Hang on.
Because they're just coming into you like straight, going into something else.
Had a suggestion that we put maybe a couple of other questions in the chat for people. So, there's a few things that we. Oh, I can't put more questions in. I can only have the one question apparently. I can only have the one official question in there. But this, this exists. This community exists to try and help people move forward, to try and allow them to provide a better life for themselves and to provide a better life for their family. And I'm just trying to make myself bigger again. There we go. So the reason that this exists is so that people don't end up in the position that I was in, I think. So I've got a good family. I've got a supportive wife. But I'm the sole provider for our family. And my wife is at home with the kids, which, adds a certain level of pressure. And a few years ago, we left the RAF, we left the military, where we were in military housing, which is super cheap. And we went and bought our own house, and it was a bit of a project house. It needed quite a lot of work doing to it. It was livable, but it needed quite a lot of work doing to it. So we were always working around a room that needed updating. There was quite often tools in one room, and that room was locked off. There was a room being worked on, that was locked off. It was messy, it was a lot. And the biggest problem we had really wasn't the time or the skills to do anything, it was the fact that we didn't have the cash because we'd moved and I had some time off in between jobs. So when we moved, I also changed jobs. Like I said, I left the military and I started a new job, but I had sort of 2 or 3 months off in between. And in that time, I thought, well, great, I've got the time off. I need to work on this house, but we didn't have the cash. So I decided it would be a good idea to put some stuff on a credit card. And we also had a loan, like we'd borrowed some money from a parent to get the deposit when we moved in. We had a car loan, and the house was only running on electric. There was no gas, which was normal for that house, right? It's not that like it wasn't connected or whatever. There just wasn't gas to that house. So I decided it would be a good idea to get solar panels as well, and we took a loan out for that, which in the long run probably was a good idea because it worked out in the long run. But what it did at the time was it left us with no cash to do the work on the house. So I turned to the credit cards to buy the materials whilst I had this time off. And then it was super difficult because I had to go and take a second job on so that I could then pay the debts back. So as well as trying to do the house up, I then had 2 jobs, and we had another baby on the way. We had a toddler already, and it was a lot. So I've been through this and worked out how to deal with the debts, worked out how to deal with the difficult conversations in a marriage when you've got young kids, when you've got debts, how to keep yourself healthy during this time. And I don't want other people to have to go through that alone. That's one of the biggest reasons why I started the community. And the reason, therefore, that this call exists, which normally happens within the community itself, not outside of the community, is that if someone has a problem that they need some help with, something that they're struggling with, then they can bring it to the call and we can sit down and discuss it. Whether that's just with me, whether there's a couple of other people on there as well. Because when it's inside a school, it's more like a Zoom call or a Teams call. Everyone can talk. Everyone can use the chat. Unlike this, where people can just use the chat. So if anyone's in here, you can let me know in the chat. But that's all you can do in here. Whereas in school, everyone can talk to each other. So the person can come on and properly explain their situation and get some real good feedback and leave with like their next step. Like, what do I need to go and do? So that's what the call normally looks like. And then if I've got something new to share, like I was just sharing with this sort of at the moment it's called Your Enough Number. I'm not sold on that title. But I put this together today. It'll get developed over time with some feedback, and it's tools like that to work out where am I going financially, because the finances are important, because I feel like if your finances aren't under control, and that doesn't mean you've got to have no debt and loads of money coming in and huge investment pots and savings for 2 years. It just means that you've got a plan and you know what's happening. So you might have debts and you're paying them off, but you know that things are going to get paid off. You know when they're going to get paid off. You know where the money's coming from. You know that you're not going to be in your overdraft at the end of the month because you've planned everything out and you've got a budget. I feel like you can't start thinking about anything else until all of that is done, because you just don't have the headspace. I remember I was sat in the hallway watching my family play, and I couldn't engage with them because I was in my own head thinking about the money. Like, I remember it. Just sat there watching them, not being able to engage with them. I don't have that now. We just had a bill for like £500, um, that was for a medical thing, and we weren't expecting it, and we probably could have put it off a bit longer, but it's something that's going to help move us forward, I think, and support us as a family. So the money was there, and I don't have to now struggle to sleep at night because I know that I've been putting money away for these things. That's some of where the sort of financial stability comes in, and financial clarity. It doesn't mean that you've got tons of money. It just means you've got a plan. So again, I'm not sure we've got many people here. If anyone does have any questions, you can put them in the chat. It's one of the downsides with doing it through YouTube, I think, is the fact that I can't see if people want to engage. I can't see what they want more of. On a live call with the other person who can talk back much easier. It's definitely an easier game to play. But if not, we'll keep the call open for another few minutes, and if we don't get anything more, we'll close down. I normally run these calls for half an hour, and if we're done by that point, then I'll close down. If people still want to chat, then we can do. But they're normally just half an hour. People jump on as they need to. I think this time works pretty well for the UK. Maybe not quite as well for those in America, because I think it's during your day. So, if that's the feedback we get, we might have to move this around a little bit. But that's fine. Or maybe run one on a weekend. What's the go-to for you? How do you mean, what's the go-to for you?
Man, what's your goal in life?
What's my goal in life?
Yeah, well, what can I take you back?
What's my goal? My goal with all of this is I have some selfish goals. I don't mean selfish in like a nasty way. I just mean like they're my goals, right? And then I have some goals that are more selfless, helping others. So when I was in the RAF, I really enjoyed being able to help other people. I used to run a team of 60 people, and a lot of those were young guys. You know, they were 18, 19, 20. They were from, left school, they'd come into training, and then they come straight out of training, and this was their first job. And they were living in the block, and they had very little expenses, right? The block was cheap to live in, their food was cheap, and so they had a lot of disposable income. So they got themselves in trouble. So there was those things to deal with. They also were trying to work out what they wanted to do, like a longer term with their career. What sort of training did they want to take on? Where did they want to specialize? And then we used to plan deployments as well. That was part of my job. And, things would come up in there about how do they work around things going on in their life. And all these bits of people's lives where they needed some support, I actually really enjoyed helping out with that. And when I left the RAF and I went into consultancy, I lost that. I lost that ability to work one-on-one with someone and, see the output, see the benefit to their life from working with them, rather than just working with an organization and seeing the organization benefit from that. So that was one of the biggest things that I wanted to personally get back to, helping other people. And then the selfish part of it, because I think that's a bit more selfless, right? Helping other people. But the selfish part of it was more that, can I leave the 9 to 5 in the future and set up my own business where I get to support people and, have a more flexible life so that I can support my family better. So that's kind of where my goal is. Seeing a question there about what can I get from joining the community. So if I just shrink myself back down into the corner a second, then I'll come back out. So this is school. This is what school looks like if you come and join. This is my community. I'll just hide some of the more distracting things. So it's a social media platform essentially, but it's a social media platform that's actually still social. There's no adverts on here really. The only adverts you'll see is some other communities being suggested. That's it for adverts. So you're not bombarded by adverts all the time. You'll see things where I'm providing. So I like to do a mix of value add posts to support people, and also some community building posts so people get to know each other a bit better. And then we have a daily post as well called the Evening Debrief. So in this, we talk about what your story-worthy moment of the day is, which the idea comes from a book by Matthew Dix, who talks about looking back at your day to work out what we can't see it. That's not helpful. It looks to me like you should be able to see it. What can you see in that case?
Just you.
You can just see me. You can't see my screen.
No.
Huh. Because my stream says that you can see my screen.
Oh my god. Sorry, babe. You can't see you.
You can see it.
It's really delayed.
Okay.
Sorry, babe.
So apparently you can see the screen. There's just a delay because the questions are coming in locally as well. So yeah, so the story-worthy moment, that idea comes from a guy called Matthew Dix. He wrote a book, and the idea really is to look back at your day and work out, if you had to tell someone a story, what would be the most story-worthy moment of your day? It might be something funny, it might be something sad, but what would make a good story from your day? And this is really good reflection piece. So, we call it the honest debrief, and a debrief is to look back at what's happened. So that's why I like this point is looking back at your day, because there might have been some good points, there might have been some bad points, and either way, it's a reflection to see what has gone right or wrong. And the second piece here is, what are you going to commit to tomorrow? There's a lot of benefit that can be can be got from having someone hold you accountable. It's crazy that we will let ourselves down, but we might not let someone else down. And if we know there's other people watching, we're much more likely to do the thing we said we were going to do. So you can see here, I had, an update on what my commitment was from yesterday. I had my story-worthy moment of the day, and then I had my commitment for the following day. And you can see other guys coming in here and doing the same. There's James in here talking about, I think he was getting distracted, right? So he was gonna listen to some sort of focus music and just play us on YouTube. Talking about all the rain he's having, and even having some leaks, I think, in his house. And tomorrow he's talking about having to be a bit more, pardon me, having to be a bit more focused because he's working from home, right? And this is how now we can then check back in with him to see, did he do that? And a good example of that will be from maybe a couple of days ago, where is it this one? Like I say, we do this on a daily basis. A couple of days ago. So this makes for a good one, actually. So, Ash talked about, I can't actually remember if it's in here or not, but he talked about going for a bit of a date night with his wife, or like a date with his wife for brunch. So we checked back in with him. Did it go well? Did he actually go out like he said he was going to do? He did. He found some new places to go and explore. So that's the whole reason behind the evening debrief, is to get back in and make sure that there's someone keeping you accountable, because therefore you're more likely to move forward and do the thing. And then we have some value added pieces. So there was this piece that I was talked about earlier with the enough number, that came from Alaraja. He had a good question that he asked about it. I asked people about whether they have date nights, because some people don't always do this, but it can be a great way to just improve your relationship by dedicating time for each other. And where are some others? This is, again, it's a little bit of that reflection piece, but what do people feel grateful for? Asking people to stop and think about what they're feeling grateful for can be really helpful, and you can see people have dived into to talk about this. And then we also have posts where we just kind of have a bit more of a laugh. So how many plants have you killed? Or we have got a lot of posts in here now. We got involved to say, if you could only listen to one artist or band for the rest of your life, what would you choose? And you can see people coming in just to randomly chat about things, and that way you can start to interact with other guys and build some friendships over some stuff that you weren't expecting. You might have come in here thinking, oh, I'm going to improve my finances, and all of a sudden you're going to go, oh, Garrett's posted about how much he likes Kiss. I also love Kiss, right? I'm going to start chatting to him, and all of a sudden you just building a bit of a bond with someone who you weren't expecting. That's where I think some of the benefit is, and that's within my community, and also within the classroom section. You've got the financial stability program. That's that's to help you in 30 days come up with that plan to move forward. If you come in and you engage, then you earn your initial debrief, which is an hour with me to help you get, work out where you're stuck, walk away with a plan. So that's what, the two things in there, the main things in there that you can get at the moment. There'll be some more to come. And as you can see here, I'm actually in a bunch of other communities because there's a lot on school, right? You don't have to just come for my community. Like there's one here for anime that I'm in because I like to watch anime, right? So there's a bunch of people talking about what anime they're watching. So that might be sort of the sort of thing you're interested in, or if you want to build with Claude, right? There's communities here that are free to help you understand how you build more with Claude. So there's lots of things that you can do within school that's not just coming into my community. And I think once you're in there and you see the benefit of being in a community and engaging with people, then you'll spend a lot of your social media time on school, I think, rather than on other social media platforms. That's at least what I've found. And I think that probably comes to a nice closing point. I don't think we've got any more questions, and I don't think anyone new's joined, so I will close down the stream in a couple of seconds if there's no one else to ask any questions. And like I say, you can join the community if you want. The link's in my YouTube bio. Yeah, I'd love to have you. So take care, everyone. I hope you have a nice rest of your evening, and bye.